everybody is here. So, fine. You guys need to do anything?
Everybody's here? We're all here.
Well, we could do like we do in all school classrooms at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock in the morning. We can do a Pledge of Allegiance. It's on the agenda, so we better do it.
Okay, there you go.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. So, joint meeting, I think we've all got agendas here. So let's go through them. And how about if we start with the Aquatic Center in NORTHSHORE?
Great. So, as probably you guys must have heard in whichever various quarters, I've been a big proponent of an aquatic center and a public pool for North Shore, and that's based on having grown up here and enjoyed the great privilege of learning how to swim via the school district and our combined efforts from different jurisdictions. Looks like now from King County Councilmember Rod Dembowski that with the King County Parks levy anticipated for this fall, there's some portion of funds in the millions of dollars. The precise amount I can't recall right now, but in the general sense, King County was looking at an amount to be shared among at least 3 cities in the North End or a North End facility, and also potentially a portion that Kenmore might be able to take out of that. It might be Bothell as well. But I would look for tonight just a general sense of joining the discussion, of a commitment to join the discussion, to see how City of Kenmore, Bothell as well, and North Shore schools how we can get together and talk about a mutual support for some future public pool.
And I think it's a little bit more than that, in that Councilmember Dembowski has just texted me and said, how hard should he push for the pool in the bond levy, and how serious are we about it? So,
Yeah.
short notice, but sometimes when you're putting things on a ballot for a bond issue, you got to make some quick decisions. And that's both, certainly from the council side of things, and
So an easy one maybe to begin with, which is mine, which is just a general engage in discussion, and then a more particular idea.
yeah, because this is going on the ballot. I think there's a parks levy scheduled for November. And they're looking at how that parks levy is going to be spent. Shoreline and Lake Forest Park and the Shoreline School District are looking for a pool. That's definite, and so there is going to be money in the bond for a pool to be jointly shared between Lake Forest Park and Shoreline. So we have that same opportunity. One site for the pool has been suggested as the old Wayne Golf Course. So it would be east for Kenmore, Bothell, and Woodinville. So that's a thought that's out there. The question becomes, if we get most of the money to build the pool, what do we do for maintenance and operations? That's always the big issue. And I certainly think that one of the big users potentially would be the high schools and swimming teams. But there's definite public interest also. So,
So,
Yeah, I guess I'll start for the board. But I know back when the city of Kirkland was going down this road and had it on the ballot, that absolutely we want to be part of the conversation, and certainly as a long-term lessee, We've got now 4 high schools with swim teams and some that can barely support a dive team because we don't have a pool in the district. So that certainly we would want to be part of the conversation and be supporters of users as a lessee. That's where we were at. It was about 4 or 5 years ago, I think, when the city of Kirkland was doing that. More obviously requires conversation with our voters, conversation, a deeper conversation, but at a minimum that I think we could certainly agree to.
I guess I'm worried about ongoing maintenance, because that can be.
Mm-hmm.
Councilmember Januski.
Yeah, I do think before we could say we would want that on the ballot, we would have to figure out what the maintenance and operations, who would be that piece, because it's huge. Our has budget for that, so I feel like that's something that would need to be answered before we could say we want it.
Yes.
So if the school district is a major lessee of the facility, does that come anywhere close to meeting the ongoing needs just to keep the place running? Do you have any?
No, that's a good question.
And, yeah, and I just wanted to ask the question. Oh, now I'm on.
Yeah,
I just wanted to
don't-
ask the
don't-
question.
Don't appear to be working.
Okay, which is, I can project.
That works.
Oh, there it goes. Great, yeah. We haven't discussed as a board before. I don't think we knew that this was coming from the county, and so we haven't had a chance to discuss what, the ramifications of this and all. I would love to learn more about the conversations that have been had at the county level. I mean, certainly it's something that we've discussed for many years. We identified the need for our students and the greater community, actually, to have access to a pool. But exactly what maintenance means to, in order to answer that, I think some specifics about where the conversations are up to this point would be really, really helpful. I don't know if you have them at this point, or if it's something, if we need to get on it before November, I imagine our board president could help us arrange the time and meeting agenda space to do that. Absolutely. We've been talking about it for a long time, but it's hard to answer the question because we're not as up to speed as what the discussions have been to this point.
Right, and these discussions are new to us because we've sort of been after the pool, but we haven't found any funds to build the pool or any interest in building the pool until a couple of months ago when Councilmember Dembowski said he was putting together a parks levy and would put some money in for a pool. Now, whether that's enough to build the pool, I don't know. I definitely know it's certainly not enough to maintain the pool and keep it operational. So, and what would that cost? I don't know. So, yes.
I guess my question is, are we putting it on as a request to the voters before we're ready? Do we really have enough information to even have an intelligent conversation yet?
Probably not, but this is going on the ballot, and Dembowski wants an answer so he knows how far to push and how much money to ask for the bond measure, so.
But if we don't know how much the pool is going to cost to build, we don't have a location, and we don't know how much it'll be to maintain, seems like going to the voters with that kind of uncertainty doesn't seem like a really good thing. I guess my recommendation would be delay it a year or two till we know what we're doing.
Well, but yeah, there won't be another parks levy in a year or two. So.
Once every 6
And there's a
years.
whole lot of stuff that is on that parks levy that will be funded. Councilmember Sherman. He needs to know whether we're interested in him pushing to get money into the bond for a pool. So if he does that, we're not even saying we're gonna take it and we're gonna build the pool.
Okay.
Because if it's not enough to build the pool, then why do it? Because we don't have money. Now, maybe Woodinville and Bothell have a little bit of money, and maybe we have a little bit that could go in. But none of this is known yet. But if the school board is interested, then we've got a major lessee for the pool. Councilmember Danuski.
think location is another interesting conversation we should have a little bit. Kenmore would be interested, or Kenmore residents would go to a pool in this general area, but I don't see Kenmore residents going to a pool out in Woodinville. They would just go to Linwood or Paris. So.
No, that's why the site has been the old golf course.
But nobody's agreed on that. That's just kind of an idea, right?
There's an understanding that's where it would go. There's a general.
Have we told Bothell?
Yeah,
But we wouldn't be, I don't think Kenmore would be supportive of a pool out in Woodinville. I don't think Kenmore would be supportive of a pool up in Snohomish County.
Well, I was just going to say the need for the pool is pretty dramatic, and I would think rather than the kids driving at 4:30 in the morning to go to Juanita High School for swim, they'd probably drive to Woodinville or wherever we had to go, but obviously a more central location would be best. I think the district and the citizens of the district would love to have a pool. If the county wants to shell out the money and we can all pitch in to help that construction, that'd be great. The ongoing concern, though, is the operations of the pool. I mean, the money that the district can pay towards operations is athletic fees that we charge to families, which isn't, it's a significant amount of money, but it's not enough, I wouldn't think. It's a public safety concern, too, really, and it's probably, in the end, it's going to have to be subsidized. Maybe it's a regional pool and we can drive revenues through tournaments and all that and competitions, but it's going to have to be a long-term subsidy, I would think, at the ask of the voters.
Well, it is going to be a regional facility.
Okay.
Rob won't ask for money unless it is a regional facility. It is King County money, so it won't be in Snohomish County. It will be in King County. So there's a lot of things pointing to Wayne Golf Courses to be the ideal location for the jurisdictions here. So, but it has to be a regional facility, otherwise he's not interested in funding it.
another question I'm curious about, has there been any discussions about bringing in any other partners like the YMCA or any other associations that might be able to help with, creating use and demand and therefore fees?
Well, the
or
YMCA's got its
maintenance
own
of-
pool, so I don't know how much they'd be interested.
Just one, if it's a larger facility, again, coming from without being in the conversations, I don't know what's been planned for it. If it's the same size as the North Shore Y pool, then that's one thing. But if it was a larger facility, I don't know if it might be something, given the growth in the area, they might be interested in being a partner with, or another nonprofit.
You're in on the longest discussion we've had on this.
Excellent. Excellent, my favorite.
And to do that, there's also some interest, definitely by no means solidified or set in stone. There's another potential powerful taxing district, and that is the North Shore Parks and Recreation
Right.
District for potential senior application as well, another funding source.
And that was a very successful funding source for the North Shore Senior Center. That worked out great.
Oh, don't forget, senior centers. Some other issues.
That's right.
More urgent.
Potential, yes, I said potential.
But I mean, is there general desire to have Rod include this in the package?
Sure.
So, Mayor Baker, I'll just speak for myself. I think a pool's overdue for our North Shore community, so I think it would be great if the county has an opportunity to put in money. We should take advantage of that and work with our neighbors to try and execute that. One thing that I'd like to find out is if we could figure out what do we spend in a year for pool rental for our swim and dive teams. I know it's not 12 months consecutive, but if we spend a amount of money every year and divide that by 12, that's money that the district's already spending to support pool access. It may not be much, as Bob was
Kenmore's
saying.
not gonna go out and build a pool. We don't have the money. I mean, it's just plain and simple. The operations and maintenance is just too expensive. Bothell is certainly not gonna do it. They've got McMinimans there. And so I don't think there is a desire there. Woodinville certainly is not going to build one. At least I've not heard any grumblings that way. So this seems to be the best opportunity using county money at least to build a pool. I mean, there's still a lot of questions to be answered. We still don't know how much money it is. But the question here is, do we have Councilmember Dembowski push to get it on the ballot or not? You know, and I'm in favor of at least have him go after it, because we're not saying, yes, we're definitely going to build it. We're just saying, see if we can get it past the voters and we can get some money. And then let's figure out, is there enough there and how we're going to manage the rest of it. But unless we take this first step of having Dembowski get it on the, get it into the bond, it's just not going to happen. Councilmember Curtis?
So if it's approved, what time period do we have to actually use the money?
Don't know.
A couple of years.
And I would absolutely support asking Dembowski to push for us. There's a funding source available, or hopefully we become available this fall, and downside to it.
You know, with Shoreline in that, everybody realizes that there's a need for pools. The county's not going to get involved like they did, what was it, with Forward Thrust when they built all these pools and that. They're certainly not going to go to that extreme again. But if they can provide funding to build a pool here and there, I think that's certainly something they're willing to look at with this parks levy. So, Councilmember Smith?
I think we should encourage him to include it, because I recall asking him something about the time frame, and I don't think it was something that needed to be determined immediately, that there is time involved and there is some degree of flexibility. I'd say my biggest concern, or my two biggest concerns by far, are location, where it gets sited, and then the other is the M&O, because I just think it's a reason pools fail, and they can be such a drain, no pun intended, but on funds. And that really does, that concerns me the most, is that, this has to be a multi-agency partnership, otherwise there's just no possibility. And since this bond, I believe this parks levy only comes up, I think it's every 7 years.
6 or 7 years.
6 or 7. So, it is a unique opportunity, and since we have a council member that really wants to work for us, I think it makes sense that we at least pursue it.
Yeah, we don't know what the
Pursue the
landscape's going to
discussion.
be like in 6 years.
Yeah.
Right, this may be the best shot that we have, and maybe the only shot we have. So I don't think there's a downside into at least having him try. So it's not committing anybody to anything. Is there general interest there? And it looks like from the school board there is interest.
Sure.
Okay, so I'm going to have him push. Okay, next item, upcoming ballot measures. Looking to you for part of this one.
Sure,
Now
yeah.
look to Dr. Reed for the other part of it.
You want to go first, or?
We got nothing. Good. We're good for 3 years.
We don't have any planned right now, but we may be going to the voters in the next couple of years to help us with our structural financial deficit that we have. Right now, we're making ends meet through this year and next year, but starting in 2021, it's looking like our lines are going to cross. So we'll have to look at a combination of cuts and revenues, and we'll be having a conversation with the community about that in the coming year.
Well, there will be a bunch on the ballot. The county's got a couple things planned, I think it was the fingerprint identification system and that thing is up this year. I know Seattle's got some levies on the county's got the parks, and I think there's something in August. So I'm just wondering when the voters will say we've had enough. It's coming. Okay. Concert hall progress at Inglemoor High School.
Yeah, so it was, as you all know, approved by our voters in last February, and it was kind of a last-minute addition. Not that it's not important, but it was last addition to the bond. So we've got architects hired, and we had started with a steering committee that plotted it on the campus, picked the location, and then we had a follow-up committee that really looked at the structure of it and so forth. And now we're in the phase of what will the outside look like, what will the inside look like, where are the bathrooms going to go, and that. And it is on track to be finished in the fall of 2021. Yeah. About 700, 750 seats. It's
How's
very
that
exciting.
compared to the one at Boathouse?
It's bigger.
It is big.
Oh, yeah, yes.
And it's really designed for different purposes.
Yeah, it's a concert hall versus a performance hall, which was a fascinating conversation. I had no idea there were two different facilities. Yeah, Councilmember Srebek was on the committee as well. It was a huge learning curve for me. But yeah, it's a very different venue designed for the hearing of the performance, the acoustics.
So are we going to have touring groups coming through, or is this strictly?
It's a community facility, so it will be a district-wide facility. Obviously, first crack will be our music groups within our district, but yeah, it's going to be the first of its kind, really, in the area.
So then potentially if the New York Philharmonic came through, they would play that?
In a heartbeat would they be allowed. Speaking for myself.
So since, Bothell has the performing arts up there and sell tickets in this for public events, would you anticipate something here for musical events? Or strictly school use?
Well, so what we found in the research as we were looking into what we were going to build, right now the Performing Arts Center is packed with, it's in use every single day except for the 2 weeks where we do some maintenance work with our school groups. So again, they will have first availability, but if there's more opportunities, we're hoping to do speaker series and, yeah.
Really planning on at least something.
Okay.
Our family's done in March, so. President Hayes is right. I mean, I think there would be some open dates, but sometimes.
But then public will be able to go to these concerts.
Oh, yeah.
That's exciting. Councilmember Curtis?
So I don't remember exactly how much it cost, but I remember it striking me as a large number. And without having an understanding of what it was really going to be used for, it felt like, is it really worth that amount of money? Was it 20 million or something in that range?
Ish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to me that, it says it must be a really high priority to you, more important than other things, clearly. And so what, how, I guess the question is, how do you justify that amount of money for that expensive of a facility?
Well, do you want me to take it? Okay, so first of all, Inglemoor is one of our largest high schools. We had unanticipated growth at that high school, so they're sitting at almost 1,800 students, so we need more classroom space there. It's our only high school, or it has the most portables of any high school in our district. So we had to address the overcrowding issue there because of the law in terms of rebuilding or my brain is not thinking. Anyway, renovating. We can't access state funds until it's been a certain amount of time. Inglemoor hadn't been long enough. So by building a separate building, we will still be able to, when voters give us the go-ahead, to renovate the rest of the building and access state funds. So that was part of it. The other is we looked into our NPAC, our North Shore Performing Arts Center, our middle schools are now having all of their performances in their gyms because they can't get access to have a performance in the concert hall. Our high schools, so Inglemoor has almost no performing arts venue in the high school. It has what's called the Little Theater. It seats about 150 students. Our other 3 high schools have much larger venues. So the choir, the band, the orchestra, parents have to pay to see their children perform because they have to either have it in the gym, which you can do for free, but gym venues are
Not known for good acoustics.
exactly.
Or backrests.
Yes, or backrests. Yes, exactly. My back is so tired. So they have to rent out outside spaces, and there's an equity issue there of families having to pay to watch their own kid perform. So it was really a lot of different reasons that this just made sense. And there are no concert halls.
And how many classrooms? It's not just the concert hall in
No,
that
it's
building.
a choir, orchestra, band. So there's 3 more classrooms, bathrooms, performance spaces. We're not tearing down the existing building, so that will then provide more options for, and believe me, every staff member at Inglemoor is already eyeing it for use.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Could I bring up a quick topic on that's a good segue, just about traffic? And we're definitely going to be looking to you to help us with that, with traffic mitigation. Although the site design is going to have a larger parking area and a larger drop-off area, and to hopefully get more cars off of Simon, especially during school drop-off and pickup. I was wondering, is there any plans with the city of any road improvements there on Simons, or an extended left turn lane at the main entrance to Inglemoor? Anything on the schedule?
Not that
Not that
I'm
you're aware of?
Yes.
Going to be repaving, but short of that, no.
Okay. I'm sure we'll get into that once I don't think we've submitted for permit yet, have we?
You're in the
We're
pre-application
Pre-app,
phase,
so
yeah.
we're not to traffic mitigation or traffic study yet, probably. We'll probably get into that later. Okay.
And thank you, Director Swain, that's part of the 20 million is traffic mitigation and increase in parking and flow at Inglemoor.
Include symphony as well, or just orchestra?
Anything that
Anything
performs,
makes
makes
anything that makes
music
noise.
is,
All right, good deal.
All right, so the next thing is near and dear to my heart, and I know it is to Deborah's. High school rowing program in Boathouse.
Thank you, Mayor. I actually have a couple of slides to show you. So this picture is taken from the site where the boathouse is going to go at Rhododendron Park. So it's looking from the site out onto the river. And you can see a portion of the dock that the city has already installed. It's low to the water to accommodate rowing shelves. Also further to the left there you see the Sammamish River Bridge, just to give you some context. And across the river is way right back here is an existing boathouse. Does anybody know what boathouse that is?
Lakeside.
That's Lakeside School Boathouse. And a few years ago, we said, hey, can we partner with you and be part of your boathouse? And they said, nope, we're school specific. So,
of course,
so with that, we decided to do our own, just right across, right across the river. We were hoping to have this built by this coming summer, but we had some delays due to funding questions. If possible, we want to if we're super lucky, we can get it done by the end of this year in time for the spring season, but that's it for super lucky. We may not be able to get it built until spring of 2020, but we'll see how it goes. This is just a site plan drawing of it. This is the access road that's already there, but it's going to be improved. Here's the dock, and here's the river. But this is the 40 by 70 pad that it's going to go on. And then this is a boardwalk that we've already built that takes you back to the play fields at Rhododendron Park. And when we didn't have enough money, we were going to build this. But we got a $600,000 grant from the county plus school district money, and we think we can build this. So you can see there's 2 bays. We'll have an upstairs mezzanine. And this end is the end that's looking out onto the water. So it'll have bays on both ends. So this was back when we were looking at funding and having to choose between the less expensive and the more expensive option. We think it's about $1 million. You can see Rob's 50% experience factor. Pretty much every project I've seen get built is 50% more expensive than we originally thought it was. In my entire career, it's been that way. So I just always add 50% to everything, and I'm usually right on the money by the end of the project. So anyway, so we're really excited about it. We're excited about the partnership with the school district. We haven't yet negotiated how we're going to get the $250,000 from the school district. That's still in the works, but we're also talking to the Pocock Rowing Foundation as an operator of the building. The Lake Sammamish Boat Club, Rowing Club, is also interested in being an operator, so we might be able to do a request for proposals to see which operator would be the best for the facility. So. Yeah. Well, you were a trailblazer at your last district, so I think you brought that experience. Yeah.
I don't know. I know Dugan is working on this.
Okay. Yeah. But what's great is we already have a high school rowing program up and running, and they're using Log Boom Park and the beach access there. But it's all boats. They're just out on a lawn, exposed. So the idea is to get them under shelter and get the appropriate facilities to go with it. So.
Probably between the 4 schools.
Cool. Yeah, I think it was about 100 total.
I have. Get it geared up.
That's a great equity and access for the scholarships available for students.
That's what I find attractive, is the kids that do get involved have scholarship opportunities that wouldn't be available to them otherwise. So that's the thing that I find most attractive. Councilmember Sherman.
Just a quick question on the revised, improved shell house that we're going to be able to build. Remind me, that also now allows enough room for ergs inside, is that correct? Yeah.
Yep.
So that really changes the use at the school as well,
Not a lot
potentially?
of ergs, but yeah.
Up on the second floor, right?
Yeah, it's not gonna be a full second floor of ergs, but it'll be more like a mezzanine. Yeah.
Councilmember Smith.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly, but I know the school district will be the primary user or one of the primary users, but what will the accessibility for just an average citizen be if they want to be involved in a rowing program? Do we know that at all yet?
Yeah, so we figure the school district, they'll have their program in the fall and in the spring, but the rest of the year, even during the school year, it'll be open to the public. So the idea is to have a high school program that also jointly uses the space with a local rowing club. That's the way they do it at Lake Sammamish. They coexist together, and so they both have boats there. And
We have quite an active rowing program here. That is active spring and summer, and a little bit into the fall for adults. And there's also a youth camp during the summer. I think 2 different occasions for a week each. So there is many rowing opportunities already present for just the general public.
And those will all carry over though into the use. That's just what that's all I wanted to understand. I just want to make sure, I mean, it's public dollars, city dollars that are going towards this and county dollars and.
I think the rowing community is very welcome. Councilmember Sherman, do you want to add
Well,
something?
I mean, I think that's a point well taken, and I think that hasn't been fully articulated, but there's certainly an understanding, I think, at this point of shared use. I mean, that's how it's happening at Log Boom now, and it just needs to be kind of fleshed out, I think, what that looks like.
You don't turn people away that are interested in the program.
Oh, gosh, no. No. I think you're just talking about use of the facility and making sure, yeah.
I only bring it up because we're clearly at the point where we're going to start figuring out maintenance, operations, fees, and all this, and what the club use or school use is. And I just want to make sure that in that process, somebody is thinking about, Joe Citizen that would like to row and know that.
And I think we have a couple of single shelves at Log Boom. At Squires Landing, that people are renting space and they take them out regularly. One of the lobbyists for the county, Margaret Shields, keeps her shell down there, and I know she goes out quite a bit. So there's even a lot of activity that I'm sure will perhaps transfer.
Just to comment, as a doctor, I'm in favor of water sports because it's something people can do forever. So it's not like, your knees wear out and your hips wear out, and most people can keep rowing at a good age. Good source of exercise.
I think Councilmember Smith brings up a good point, because I don't think even the school district, we've really fully fleshed out what the extent of the rowing program is going to be. We really don't know. I think we have a good measure from Inglemoor, but combine that with whether it's a private club that helps operate it, and do some kids row in the private club versus the school club versus the public. It's probably something that needs to be thought through a little bit more ahead of time, probably before you build it. Maybe it should be a bigger facility, maybe it shouldn't be. I don't know what the demand is, but sounds like we might be a little ahead of ourselves a bit, unless I'm missing something. But
I look forward to the time where I can go to opening day down on the cut and cheer Inglemoor North Shore School District on. I mean, I really do. It's really exciting to be involved in this from the ground floor. So, snow event recap.
Is it too soon?
Still too soon?
Yeah, until you all show up.
And you were gone.
I know.
He was on the beach in Hawaii.
Well, what was interesting for Kenmore is this was starting January 1st, we had to bring in our own in-house public works maintenance crew. Up until this year, we were relying on Lake Forest Park for public works. And so just a few weeks into having our own crew, we had to be tested. And I think they passed the test. We just had 5 maintenance workers, and they went on 12-hour alternating shifts, 24/7 for 8, 9, 10 days, and they were exhausted. But we also partnered with North Shore Utility District, and they also, with plows that we bought for them last year, North Shore Utility District also staffed the operation. So we had 5 plows going round the clock for the whole event. And it was pretty challenging. We had to close some roads at times. The plows, as you guys were painfully aware, the plows were often ineffective because the way snow works in the Pacific Northwest is it just compacts to ice immediately. It doesn't powder off and blow off like it does in Utah or other states. I was telling another group just the other day that just right before the snow event, my wife was in Salt Lake City and it snowed about a foot. And the very next day, all the roads were totally clear. Just not even any ice patches, just everything was clear. Why is that? Is it because they're way more skilled than we are? No, it has to do with climatology and the way the roads are ice cold to begin with. The snow's more powdery and it blows off. But here in the Pacific Northwest, even an inch can just turn to a sheet of ice and make your snow plows ineffective. And then we throw tons of ice or de-icer and sand on it, but that can only do so much, especially if the snow just keeps coming in waves, which it did. So people were asking us to sand their roads, and we said, okay, we'll sand your road, but as soon as we sand it, you better get out and use your road because in about 3 hours it's going to snow again. So we got a lot of interesting requests like, when is the city going to shovel my sidewalk? Never. But I think what happened is it's been a long time since it's really snowed hard here, and I think we had a lot of folks come up from warmer states that had high expectations on municipal snow removal services. So, but wow, what an experience! I will never forget February 2019. So I bet you guys won't either.
School impact fees.
We're all for them.
I can
Well, not completely.
Sure. I can give an update.
Huh?
Want me to jump in on this?
Sure.
So just the other day, the city council removed townhomes from the single-family school impact fee. When we first adopted the school impact fee, as you know, it's about $10,000 for single family, $0 for multifamily. And our council thought that townhomes, especially the way they're being built nowadays, a townhome can have 3-4 bedrooms and is very similar to a single family. So we thought that having townhomes in the single family category made sense. But then we got challenged. Somebody building townhomes said, well, not so fast. We're going to challenge that. We talked to the school district and we said, do you want to defend this? And you guys said no. And we said, we don't either because it's not our money that we're getting. And so the city council removed townhomes from the category for single family school impact fees. And we're going to be refunding the money to the developer here any day now. So that's where we're at. I understand that the school district may want us to revisit impact fees and look at a higher single family and also implement a new multifamily rate, if I'm not mistaken.
That's based on our last capital, our comprehensive plan, based on the growth in the district, the latest computation for impact fees for single family, and the fact that now we are eligible under the state's formula to collect for multi-use, for multifamily units. That is in our latest updated plan that I believe we have submitted to all the municipalities, so that you do have those latest numbers. So 13,000 roughly is what the state's formula says we're eligible for single family homes, and I think it's about $1,400 per multi-family unit.
We are eligible to collect from multifamily.
We are.
You're saying, Bob, that you don't have a plan that says that?
Well, right now the council has only adopted a fee for single family,
I see.
but we're hearing that the school district may want us to adopt a fee for multifamily.
We're noticing that more and more of our families are moving into
So is that back to townhomes again?
that's if we're
sure not in favor of increasing. Yeah. Multifamily and townhomes. Just my opinion.
So question, when is this coming up for our discussion? I assume it will at some point?
I think school district staff is probably going to come and make a presentation to us in the next few months, is my guess. Nothing's scheduled right now.
Councilmember Shrubnik? I mean, I'm sorry, Councilmember Danuski?
Has the school district talked about classifying townhomes as a single-family rate ever? Have you ever had a discussion about that, since townhomes kind of seem to be the new, have probably a higher chance in an apartment than apartments to have kids, so curious if you guys have ever talked about it.
Really a board decision, so that's not really a conversation we've had at the board level. That happens at the district level. They make that,
The staff level.
yeah, at the staff level, that determination.
You know, since we had townhomes on and we took them off, to have you guys come back and ask for multifamily and townhomes again. Councilmember Smith?
Well, that's a nice segue about what I was going to say, because I was surprised that, you know, we actually thought we had worked through it beautifully, thinking, okay, you know, that a good portion of our future development will be townhomes. We're about as urban as any of the areas in the district, and so we thought it was being proactive to provide an impact fee on the townhomes, especially knowing a lot of them are, you know, pushing 2,000 square feet in size, and easily 3+ bedrooms is not uncommon, and then to not have the school district want to back us on it, we, you know, I will say that did feel a little bit odd and a little bit uncomfortable, because we were trying to be ahead of the curve, and then now to know that they're thinking about increasing the single family just doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me. If you're looking at the differences, if it's about 13,000 and 1,400, that's almost a 10% of what a single family home is, and I don't understand why there'd be such a discrepancy there. I would say it would make a lot more sense to leave the single family detached units the same, and then maybe increase the townhome.
Well, I can say we weren't consulted, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
board,
and
the
I-
board wasn't.
This is a
the board
complete
was not
surprise to us.
consulted, no.
Yeah, we weren't consulted on this at all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so this
What,
is, this is
This
news
sort
to
of
us.
makes us look like we don't know what we're doing. We put
Well,
it on, take it off, then we come back, put it on.
And I will
A phone call,
apologize
maybe.
on behalf of the district. Our growth has become even less predictable. That for a number of years, we had no growth, and then it was in a very not isolated, but a very predictable part of the district. We knew it was the north end, it was the South Snohomish County, and now we've got growth everywhere, and particularly in Kenmore, but not in the big, huge plats the way we do in the South Snohomish County area, where we can drive by and say, they're putting in 100 houses there. It's, you know, this house sells, and all of a sudden 10 houses go in. So we are seeing schools in our Kenmore feeder area reaching capacity, we're recognizing, and so, again, I will apologize, but it's been fascinating to watch, and we're trying to keep up. And you're right, townhomes has been an area of great flux. That for many years it was 1 or 2 bedrooms, and it was single or a couple maybe, and now we're seeing, and especially again in our South Snohomish County, we've got a development with 3 and 4 bedrooms, and they're calling them townhomes, and we're going to have hundreds of kids coming out of that. So we're trying to keep up, and I'm sorry that we look like we don't know what we're doing, and to some extent we don't.
This is helpful to understand, because
Yeah.
we didn't understand
That's why we do this.
And if
So,
I might too, to provide a little bit additional context, the law that governs how we can calculate when and how much impact fees to request is an old law, to the point that the fact that this is the first time we've been able to request multi-unit impact fees because of how the law is governed. You know, we had to consider capacity across our entire district, not just the portion that's inside the UGA. We had to take in, you know, the unincorporated King County, which is still, you know, a house on every 2 acres, you know, so the density wasn't there, and it took so long for the average to build up to the point where we could request multi-unit impact fees. But and I use that as a point of context to say, I don't know if townhomes are considered within the equation that we're provided. It's a kind of an interesting question. And so, and this is also a point of information to what President Hayes has said, that it's not something that we discuss in a board meeting. The calculations are done by staff, and townhomes weren't anything that there's the 2 classifications, the single family and the multifamily, and that's how they're presented to us.
I'll wait, I didn't want to jump. So is it at all possible, because I don't know how these are calculated, and I don't actually even understand, because I've never reviewed how the state analyzes what can legally be done, but you know, one of the things that would make a lot of sense, since now townhomes are, over the last 10 years, they really are becoming a new normal for families in a way that they had never been used. Can square footage be factored in, or can there be a sliding scale? And the reason I bring that up is because that's an area where it would provide a higher level of equity, maybe, because, you know, if it's 1,000 square feet or less, yeah, it's probably fair to assume there's a high probability there wouldn't be students living in the house. But if it's 1,500 square feet and over, you could probably, I'm sure, statistically show that there probably would be a much higher probability, and that would be maybe a way to try to make this a little more equitable, so there isn't a difference between $1,400 per unit versus $13,000 for a detached home.
That's a good thought.
That's an excellent thought. I'm looking at Director Herberg over there because it is a state law, how this gets parsed out, and so that we can certainly have that joint conversation. I think that's great, and this is an excellent example of why we are doing this, and we will definitely be going back to staff and saying, what's going on?
So was there opposing litigation? Is that why you had to unravel it?
Yep, we got challenged on it by
You got challenged. And so was there any communication between the city and the school district about whether or not that provision was even allowed via state law? It was. Someone at the staff level decided that was fine.
Councilmember Curtis?
I guess the question in my mind is, before I think our council will be able to make any decision on this, we need some more information, and it feels like that information needs to come from you guys. Where do you want townhouse to be categorized?
Yep.
Yeah.
Interesting.
All right. City update and school district updates.
Looking to me?
I'm looking to you.
Okay. Well, I mentioned how we brought in Public Works in-house, and that's been a big deal for us, and going to be an exciting thing for us this year. As a Lake Point update, you may, I don't know which of you follow Lake Point, if you know what it is. It's about 40 to 50 acres on Lake Washington, right at the mouth of the Sammamish River. It's undeveloped industrial property, and for many decades, people have trying to make a go of it and make it redeveloped. We were working with a developer for several years named Dean Widener, and in November he sent us a letter suspending discussions. And for the past several months, we've been trying to bring him back to the table, but just last week he officially reiterated that he does not want to continue discussions with us. So right now there's no plan for development at Lake Point. there's an old permit that has been approved for the site since 2001 that has 1,200 units, residential units approved for it, but that plan will likely never get built based on the economics of that plan. So whatever gets built on Lake Point is probably going to have to be something just totally new. I think given that, you know, more than a dozen developers have come and gone over the years, I think we need to fundamentally look at how we approach Lake Point and maybe even just flip it upside down on its head and think outside the box in all those phrases. So the property owner is still interested in doing a development there, and we'll be talking with the property owner. So that's it for Lake Point. We also have our walkways and waterways bond measure that we're implementing. So the voters said yes to 5 projects in 2016. 2 of them are sidewalk bike lane projects, and it's going to put new sidewalks and bike lanes on Juanita Drive and 68th Avenue, which is all one road, from city limit to city limit. The school district may be interested in that because you got Arrowhead Drive at the one end, and then you got Kenmore Elementary and Kenmore Middle School up on the northern end. So it'll create a great walking and biking route to those schools. We're on schedule for that. That's still in design. We anticipate construction in the early 2020s, just as we told the voters. And then we have 3 waterfront projects as part of the bond measure too. The Rhododendron Park Boardwalk is the one that's complete, so that's done. But we're going to be doing some improvements to Logboom Park, including a new beach, and also some pretty neat trails and restoration work at Squires Landing Park. And those 2 projects will also get done in the early 2020s, probably 2023. And that's what we told voters, so we're on schedule for that. And then the City Council's top priority continues to be pedestrian and bicycle safety. Walkways and waterways is going to help that, but we continue to make it a priority by building new sidewalks and bike lanes where we get funding, and also making different neighborhood enhancements wherever we can. Just a couple of years ago, we went into the neighborhoods and asked all the neighborhoods what they want to see in the form of pedestrian and bicycle safety improvements, and we implemented 90 projects just in the residential areas of our downtown. We're going to be building, we're out to bid right now on new sidewalks that are going to take kids directly to Arrowhead Elementary School. And then we're also out to bid right now on some new downtown sidewalks as well. So that's our update.
Thank you, that's great. Yeah. I want to start before I turn it over to President Hayes, just thank the mayor for coming to the State of the Schools event. We really appreciate it. Thoughtful of you to come. So, President Hayes?
Yeah, thank you. So, our current two big things that are going on, obviously, we just made a decision on how we will make up the snow days. So those of you that are parents, I'm sure have heard about it, but if not, the 3 days that were not declared part of the emergency have to be made up, and so they're added on to the end of the year. So we'll do Thursday, Friday, and then the following Monday, which will be a full day instead of its traditional very short period of time where you feel like you put your kids on the bus and then they turn right around and come back home to you. And then the other 5 days we are able to waive, but we still have to make up the hours to make sure that we're, in addition to the 180 days, you also have an hour requirement. So those are 2 separate. So we will be, of the 13 remaining early release Wednesdays, we will be eliminating 10 of them. So 3 are still on the calendar, including the one this Wednesday. And that will get us more hours, and then we'll be starting school at all of our schools 10 minutes earlier starting next Monday, which was greeted with great joy by especially our seniors who thought they had just pulled a fast one here. So that's how we're going to make this work, and hopefully it's another 95 years before we have to do this again. Thank you to all of your work. Certainly, it wasn't what we had all wanted, but you were a great partner in this, trying to keep our kids safe and trying to get them back to school. We also just announced that we are going to start having 7-period days at our high schools starting this fall, so that's a change and exciting for many people. Some, again, still not sure how that's going to work for them. We have a few teenagers that are not overly thrilled, but many kids. 6-period day. And the law has changed that students now need 24 credits to graduate, and 6-period days over 4 years puts you at the bare minimum. And in addition to 24 credits, there's a lot of requirements within those, and so students were just not having the flexibility to expand and do career and college opportunities. So we're really excited about the horizons that we're going to open up for our kids, and so that'll start this fall. And like you, we have some construction projects that were approved by our voters last February, and we have 3 big ones. The 21st Elementary School at Maltby has its capping ceremony tomorrow, which has something to do with cranes and flags and yeah. So that's moving right along and slated to open in the fall of 2020. And then we're adding classroom space between Skyview Middle School and Canyon Creek Elementary, and that also is slated to open in the fall of 2020 and maybe earlier if we can pull that off. The snow didn't help that cause at all. And then, as we talked earlier, our concert hall at Inglemoor, and all of that is because we are still growing. And we grew by several hundred students this fall, and probably several more hundred this coming fall. All of it obviously dependent on the economy continuing to grow, and we just wait with bated breath for that urban growth boundary line, especially in Snohomish County, as to what may happen there. But for now, we've got these 3, and that'll get us through a few more years. And again, just thank you for this opportunity and this great collaborative conversation. It really is delightful that you're so thoughtful and willing to work together with us. And the sidewalk conversation is just fantastic. That alone right there, but all of it. So, yeah, thank you for this evening.
I really appreciate these joint meetings every year or so, because it just sort of lets us know who each other is and what we are doing, and there's a lot of commonalities here, so I'm really thankful that we can do these. It's worked out quite well.
Oh, and we're loving our new principal at Inglemoor. If you haven't had a chance to come meet him, he's
I
really
met him
delightful.
early on, but
Yeah, doing great work.
And can I tag on one thing? If you haven't heard of the April 4th event that our Schools Foundation is putting on, it's they call it the All In for Kids Luncheon. They've actually expanded it to a breakfast, if that works better for your schedule as well. It's a great opportunity. They honor an outstanding educator. The students come and perform and show off some career and technical education projects that they're working on. It's kept to 90 minutes, nice and succinct, but it gives you a great window that it's no cost if you want to come, and if you need more information on it, it's a great way just to keep on top of what's going on in the district. It's a fun event, so if you're able to come, we'd love to see you.
So that's a big celebration. So we're pretty excited.
Of what was it?
The 60th anniversary of the school district.
Of the district, wow.
So lots of excitement about that.
Regarding the urban growth boundary, do you have you heard anything, or do you know of any changes of when it may possibly be adjusted, or is there any news on that front at all?
The rumors are hot and heavy. It's 2024, 23 is the next review of the urban growth boundary, and depending on who you talk to, it ranges somewhere between no, it's never moving, to absolutely it's moving. So we will see, and we will be ready to, because those houses will go up fast and furious if it moves. And gives us an opportunity to educate more kids in North Shore. So just have to find the space for them.
All right. So I guess we've got a few little housekeeping things to do. At least it's on the agenda. So, staff report.
I already gave my report.
Councilmember reports and initiatives. Start with Councilmember Shrevnik.
Nothing to add, sorry.
Councilmember Danuski.
I wanted to share something I got in the mail a week or so ago. And our Heritage Society is honoring Deborah Shrevnik for the 2019 McMaster's Heritage Award being presented Wednesday, this Wednesday at 7 p.m. at the Kenmore Community Center.
Congratulations. Councilmember Smith.
I have nothing to add, thanks.
Deputy Mayor.
Nothing to add.
I just have a couple of things. You've answered the one question on how hard we should push on the pool. I was appointed to Governor Gregoire's Housing Task Force that is dealing with affordable housing for the middle class and helping to spend the $500,000 that Microsoft has given. And I will be leaving for National League of Cities on Wednesday, and I will be visiting our delegation back in D.C., and I will also be dropping by National Marine Fisheries to find out why they're not signing that letter to help us build our bridge. And that's really all I have. So, there's no other business to come before us. Oh, I'm sorry.
Proactively, nothing to add.
I started over there and forgot to come around here. Councilmember Marshall.
I have to beg your indulgence in going into some delicate territory because this is going to be partisan. And I'm speaking now as an unabashed Viking. So I realize the school district has to remain neutral on such affairs, but this council had approved some representation in the hangar building of a appropriate Inglemoor High School banner, and we're working to get a sports inclusive banner, I think, in there, and with the tenant as well, and moving forward. So I just want to let everybody know that we get some school spirit in the hangar.
City Manager?
Well, just to add to that, so I think Councilmember Marshall was pretty shocked when he went into the hangar and saw a Bothell High School football calendar. And so they've infiltrated us all the way here to our downtown. So we said, no, we must have a Viking football calendar in the hangar.
Or some cool banner, some cool Viking.
Councilmember Curtis? Nothing to add. Okay, now, if there's no further business to come before us, and thank you, Councilmember Smith, we are adjourned.